Okay, guys, welcome to the second part of this preterite tense lesson. First, we saw lesson 6.3, which was the regular preterites, or regular past tense verbs. We saw some kargar-zar verbs. Kargar-zar verbs, those are the ones with weird yo forms. And we saw lesson 7.1, ser and ir in the preterite tense, and they have the same exact conjugations: yo fui, tú fuiste, él fue, etc. In this video, we'll continue with our preterite lesson, lesson 8.1. So in the present tense, we learned about boot verbs. Those were verbs that had a stem change inside the boot. Okay. In the preterite, the stem change doesn't apply to the boot. It applies only to the el, ella, usted, and the ellas, ellas, ustedes conjugations. So, over the years, I've drawn this shape over the conjugation chart, and I came up with the term, the churro verb. So the stem change, there's two possible stem changes for the preterite. There's e to I, and o to u. In the present tense, we saw four different kinds. We saw e to I, o to u, e to I, and sometimes u to u. In the preterite tense, there's only two: e to I and o to u. Okay, so there's only two you have to remember. Servir is an example of a verb that the stem changes from e to I, and it happens inside what we call the churro, or some students call it the grammaconda, or some students call it the hot dog. Or we can call these sandal verbs if you want to stick with the shoe wear analogy. For example, some students think this looks like a sandal. So the stem change occurs in the stem, and the conjugation is servio. And the eos form, sirvieron. If at any point you're unsure of how to spell the correct conjugations, you can always look it up. For example, we're looking at the verb servir. We can go online and quickly find the correct conjugations, and if there's anything irregular about it, the website will highlight that for you in blue. Okay, so here's some verbs you can practice, and you could always look up the correct spelling online. The last preterite lesson is in the textbook labeled 9.1, and I call these juvie verbs. Juvie verbs. J, U, UV, and I verbs. Okay, these verbs are very irregular. For example, desir is an example of a J verb. Desir. When we conjugate desir in the preterite, we say dije, tú dijiste, él dijo, nosotros dijimos, ellos dijeron. Mr. Sapp, where does this J come from? Well, a student a couple years ago said we came up with this way to remember. It comes straight out of juvie. So we remember that desir is a J verb, and it's a juvie verb. And the more you practice with these verbs, the more you'll remember juvie and how it helps us remember these irregular conjugations. Saber is an example of a U verb. Saber means to know. In the past tense, we conjugate supe, supiste, él supo, supimos, y supieron. Mr. Sapp, where does this U come from? It comes straight out of juvie. So an example of a U verb would be saber.